What's up guys, my name is Josh and today I'm going to be reviewing a DAC amp that is actually no longer available. Now you can still get this on the used market, and that's the main reason why I'm still going to review this because if you don't know, Oppo, the company that made this, actually closed their doors. So products, I think they're still doing support for products, but regarding purchasing new products, I don't think that any are available. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but if you can pick this up on the used market, it's 100% worth it. This thing was $300 new. I would pay that in a heartbeat. Getting one at like 200 bucks or 150 would be an absolute steal, especially considering the build quality of this thing. Like usual, I'm going to get into build first, but if you want to go into the power requirements, skip here. If you want to get to sound, skip here. And if you want to get to my conclusions, skip here. Okay, so the Oppo HA2 or HA2, I'm not really sure which one it's supposed to be, probably HA2, it's a metal body. It's made of aluminum, and then there's like this fake leather wrapping. It is a very stiff and scratch resistant fake leather. I'm assuming it's because they probably didn't want the outside to get scratched when they put it down on the table, or if you have it with a phone, they don't want it to scratch your phone or something like that. But the whole thing is solid, like really, really solid. If we go to the bottom for the inputs, there's an A, B, C input selector. For the A input, you have a full-size female USB. For the B input, you have a micro USB. And for the C input, you have a 3.5 millimeter input that also doubles as a line out if you don't have it selected as the C input. Then over to the top, we had the volume and power dial that makes a very satisfying click sound when it turns on. Awesome. Very solid feeling. I like it a lot. And then it just goes from 1 to 5 in terms of volume. And then again, we have that aforementioned audio input and that line out 3.5 millimeter. And then we have a headphone 3.5 millimeter output. The line out is going to be full volume, so you would hook it up to something else with a volume control because it's not controlled by this dial, unlike the 3.5 millimeter headphone output. And then over to the side, we have a button that tells us how much power we have, because this does actually work as a mobile power bank as well, and I'll get to that in a second. We have a bass boost switch, which you can turn on or off. And then you have a low and high gain switch, and I'll get to those in a second when I cover the sound. So that's pretty much everything for the physical build. And one more thing that I do want to talk about is when either you turn on the dial or you hit the low or high gain switch and you switch it back from one to the other, the sound is it's like a soft on sound. So if you're listening to music, you switch it to high, all of a sudden it's going to cut the music completely off and then slowly raise the volume back up to whatever your dial's set at. So that is really nice, especially if you switch that on accident in your pocket. It gives you kind of a second to react. Because let's say you got some headphones in, right? And you're rocking like max volume on low gain, it accidentally switches over to high. That might be really, really loud for you. So it just gives you kind of a split second to react to something that they didn't have to put in there, but it's definitely a welcomed addition. Regarding the power that comes out of this thing, it's actually pretty powerful. It's going to be 300 milliwatts at 16 ohms, 220 milliwatts at 32 ohms, and 30 milliwatts at 300 ohms. It powers every headphone that I have, the SHP 9500s, the DT 1990s, the AKG K712s, the 668Bs, the M40Xs, etc. Everything except for the T50RPs. I wasn't able to power those with this, but those are incredibly hard to drive, so as long as you have something that's a little bit more efficient than those, you should be fine, especially with the high gain from this thing. Now, how long this will actually play, on their website, they say on an analog source, it's going to play for about 13 hours straight. But if you're using inputs either A or B, it's actually going to play for about 7 hours total. And according to the website, it takes about an hour and a half to charge. That's pretty consistent with what I was able to use this thing for. So on their website, I will screenshot this just to show you that I'm not making this up. It does say that it functions as an external battery pack to charge your mobile device. When I plugged it into my cell phone, it didn't charge it. It did accept the signal. I had it plugged into the lightning port and then the USB into input number A on the Oppo. And it wasn't charging my phone at all. I'm not sure if it doesn't say a way on the website to get it working. I wasn't able to get it working. It might just be because the power requirement is too much for the phone. I'm not sure. I couldn't get that working on my end. It might just be this particular device, but according to the website, it does function as that. And for reference, I have an iPhone 7 or 8 or one of those, I don't know. And like I may have said before, this is a 32-bit DAC, so it's a really good DAC and a somewhat decently powered amplifier. This is really powerful. So I want to talk about how it sounds. In 2 words, absolutely immaculate. Really, really, really good. Everything that plays just hits, like even on cheap headphones all the way to 1990s, it hits with authority, and a transparency and a sharpness that I just have not really heard from too many other amplifiers. Keep in mind that I say this without really having any need to say this. I'm not getting paid for this review. I just want to tell you that this is truly an amazing product. The fullness and the clarity and the detail and the texture and the separation and the soundstage that this provides are just so good. So everything is tightly packed, and it seems like it knows what it wants everything to do, and it just tells it and commands it to do that. And it's able to display that on every pair of headphones, like substantially. Like the difference between this and the Fola 2 is crazy. The Fola 2 is a great headphone amp. I love the Fola 2. I recommend that to pretty much anybody on a $100 amp DAC budget. But this thing is on another level. I mean, this is really, really good. Now, the good news is that because this can charge simultaneously while playing, you could actually use this as a desktop amp. It is true that this is made for mobile use, but if somebody asked me if they could use this on their desktop as like a daily driver, 100%, absolutely. It works with Windows. It doesn't have any problems there. I mean, you can definitely use this for mobile, and I 100% recommend that, but I actually recommend just using this for your desktop because it's that good. Now, real quick, I want to talk about the high-low gain. I've seen a few products in my day that the high gain and the low gain switches changes the sound. And some amplifiers, like for example, the SMSL SAP6, that amp it had a lot of integrity up to about 75% of its max volume output. And then after that, it started to lose the low and the mid range and started to kind of brighten up the highs in like a false clarity sort of way. Now this, I haven't noticed any of that. There's been no distortion on low or high gain. It's just been wonderful everywhere in the range. It just seems like they really knew what they were doing with this device. And I think that speaks to the company because everybody who talks about Oppo really, really likes their products. And this is a perfect example of a company can make a great product and it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the company is going to last. That being said, if you have an opportunity to pick this up, I definitely recommend it. It really is truly, truly great. And then I want to get to this bass boost button. Now, I am surprised and impressed with this because they showed restraint. I would say that the bass boost button, it knocks it up. If I had to put a number on it, it would knock it up maybe 5%. It wasn't a lot at all. It was really, really conservative, and it didn't seem to really falsify the intention of the individual headphones that were plugged in, and that's what I really liked. So let's say I took like the 668Bs, right? Notoriously they're not really great in the bass area. That's not really what they're made for. They're a cheap headphone. They're like $38, $45, $48 with pads, and I highly recommend those if you're on a tight budget. What the bass boost button on this allowed it to do is just give it a little bit more, just a little bit, not change the characteristic of the headphones. It still gives you the vocal isolation, all the soundstage, all the imaging that you come to love with the 668Bs, but it doesn't drive the bass just over the top way too much. It's not like that. It's restrained, it's refined, and it's clean. And I really appreciate them for having a button that does that, but doesn't go completely overboard and still maintains, like the word I've been liking to use a lot, it still maintains its integrity all the way up. It just boosts it ever so slightly. Now I will say this, it's not a mid-range bass boost at all. It's definitely like a sub-bass type of thing. So if you have a headphone like these AKGs, for example, which the bass just kind of slowly tapers off, it really helps to boost up that lower end just ever so slightly, just enough to get it a little bit more life in it, a little bit more aliveness, a little bit more of a visceral feeling. But it doesn't change the characteristics of the headphones, and I really, really like that. So on to the conclusion. This is great for mobile or desktop use. Absolutely great. Regarding the sound, the build, the quality, literally everything about this, I have no cons with it except for the power bank situation. Now this is used, this did come from Zeos, so it could be something broke somewhere along the lines, or maybe my phone just isn't accepting the power. I don't know what the issue is, but just excellent features, excellent implementation of everything. I like the ability to switch the inputs, have different outputs that do various things. The one thing that I wish it did have that it doesn't already do is Bluetooth. If it had Bluetooth for $300, this would be a perfect product. I think $300 is expensive. That's not cheap for me. I'm sure that's not cheap for a lot of you. But this is an absolutely fair price for the money, and I really mean that. I mean, this is a 9.9 out of 10. The only thing that would bring it up to a 10 out of 10 would be the addition of Bluetooth. And if it had all that for $300, it's an absolute steal. If you can get this on the used market, because of the build quality, I actually recommend using this, because this is not going to fall apart anytime soon. I mean, there's a couple dings and scratches up here, but it feels like it's brand new. You know how like phones degrade over time? They don't really feel the same, like 6 months or a year or 2 years down the line, then you get a brand new one, and you're like, this feels like fresh. This feels like that's what this feels like. It just feels like a solid, thick, heavy brick. It's not like overly heavy, but it's got a really solid feel to it. And it's just an amazing product. I think that's one of the fairest and most well implemented amplifier packages that I've really ever seen. And I really don't say that lightly. Like, I genuinely mean that. Now, a couple disclaimers is this was sent to me by Zeos, like I said before. I'm not being paid to say this. Nobody is giving me money or anything like that. I can't link that to Amazon. What I will link, though, is stuff that you can buy. I have my recommended headphones and my recommended amplifiers and DACs and all that stuff down below. If you do want to support the channel, use one of those links, or hit me up on Patreon if you really, really want to support the channel. You like what I'm doing, you like the clean, kind of refined style that I'm trying to build here. Yeah, any questions that you have in the comments, I'll be in there for the next couple days. I'd love to open up a discussion about this, because this is a really great product. All right, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in my next video. Stay safe. Don't do anything your mom would approve of. Peace. I know this video is long. I'm sorry. Not really. Peace. Goodbye. You ever wonder if like audio reviewers just like what they do when you're not watching them? I pretty much just sit here like this, not doing anything at all. My life is hell.